The rain fell relentlessly that evening, a drumming rhythm against the window pane that made the world outside seem distant and unwelcoming. Emma sat curled up on her couch, a single flickering lamp illuminating the cluttered living room, littered with the remnants of her life: bills, crumpled receipts, and faded photographs now almost ghostly in their stillness. Her phone buzzed, drawing her gaze reluctantly to the screen where notifications flashed the latest updates on cryptocurrency. At first, it had seemed like a golden opportunity. Cryptocurrency promised a revolution in investing, a bright new world of potential wealth that danced just out of reach. The allure of quick gains rattled her rationality, whispering sweet nothings that drowned out the warnings from family and friends. "It's the future," her colleague had insisted, eyes wide with excitement over lunch, the echoes of their laughter still lingering in her ears. But that night, perched in the soft embrace of the sofa, those dreams of prosperity felt more distant than the pouring rain. Emma remembered how she had watched her savings grow from a mere trickle into a torrential rush, feeding into the volatility of the market while ignoring the nerves that prickled at the back of her mind. She recalled the shaky hands with which she had pressed buy, the pulse pounding in her ears each time prices surged, then plummeted without warning. Each gamble felt intoxicating, yet with each rise and fall, her heart raced with fear of loss. As the markets burned bright with promise, she made a choice, one that felt exhilarating and terrifying all at once. She withdrew her entire savings account, almost every cent she had painstakingly accumulated over the years, and dove into the dark waters of fluctuating values and wild investments. It was a leap of faith, she told herself, rationalizing that she was on the cusp of something remarkable. This was no mere whim. It was an adventure, an escape from a life that felt stagnant. Days turned into nights as she immersed herself deeper into the digital world, her screen glowing like a beacon in the dim room. News articles blurred together, each promising wealth and success, their words echoed by waves of fervor across social media. Comments exploded with optimism, each transaction a thrilling dance, but at the heart of this frenzy lay an unsettling undercurrent. She began to notice how desperation played on the faces of others, fellow investors caught in a relentless cycle of hope and despair. One evening, after another long scrolling session, she leaned back to catch her breath. The weight of her choices settled heavily on her chest, like the oppressive storm rattling against her windows. Had she made a mistake, one that would haunt her for years to come? Countless sleepless nights were spent reflecting on her impulsive decision as her investments dwindled. What was once a growing figure plummeted into frightening territory. Each decline in value felt like a phantom clawing away at her peace. Just then, a notification jolted her from her thoughts, a live stream announcement from a renowned crypto guru. Emma, driven by a mix of curiosity and anxiety, clicked to join, heart racing as the familiar face filled the screen, promising financial freedom and wealth beyond imagination. The comments swirled around her, a torrent of enthusiasm and blind faith fueling the fire in her gut. But then, in a shocking twist, he paused, revealing that he'd moved all his investments into real estate, admitting that crypto was a gamble that could ruin everything without the right knowledge or strategy. A chill seized her as the revelation washed over her, leaving her breathless. Were she and everyone she knew merely pawns, taking part in a game designed by someone else? In that moment, Emma felt trapped in a way she had never envisioned. What if her leap of faith had led her into a dark abyss, invisible and claustrophobic, where she had gambled not just with money, but the security of her future? She glanced down at her phone, her own wallet app mocking her with stark numbers, a chilling reminder of the reality she faced. The dampness from the storm outside seeped through, pressing in on her as she stared at the screen, her mind racing. What was she meant to do now? The alluring promise of wealth had become a taunting specter. With the faint sound of thunder echoing, she felt a slow dread curling around her heart, a whisper of despair reminding her that sometimes the price of ambition becomes too steep. And just as she thought to close the app and retreat into the safety of her former life, the screen flickered and her heart froze. A new notification appeared. $0 balance. Your funds have been compromised. Staring at the message, the storm outside felt like an omen as she realized that the choice to chase wealth had come with unforeseen consequences, erasing everything she had ever known. In that oppressive darkness, Emma understood that the shadow of financial ruin was not just a consequence of losing money. It was a haunting presence that could envelop all she had, leaving her questioning if she would ever escape its grasp. The weight of despair gnawed at Emma like a hungry beast, its claws deepening their grip as she reread the stark notification. $0. Her savings, her dreams, had evaporated into the haze of digital transactions and speculative peaks, swept away in a tide of poor choices and irrational trust. The flickering light reflected in her eyes, a ghostly reminder of the warmth and security she had set aside for this illusion of wealth. As thunder rumbled impatiently, she recalled the many warnings she had brushed aside. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. It was a mantra echoed across countless financial blogs and forums, one she had once taken to heart. But wrapped in the euphoria of potential gains, those prudent mantras had fluttered away like autumn leaves in a brisk wind. Instead, she had let the allure of extraordinary returns drown out whispers of caution, all the while convincing herself that this was merely the path toward liberation. Emma's fingers trembled as she reached for a crumpled receipt on the coffee table, its edges frayed and softened with time. It was a reminder of mundane purchases, of simpler days when money felt like a cushion, not a battleground. The gentle hum of her savings account had once provided a faint but steady soundtrack to her life, a comforting assurance that her financial future held more than just a gamble of fortune. She mourned that now, a spectral presence hovering in the corners of her cluttered living room. Suddenly, a clarity flickered through the haze, illuminating a path she had yet to consider. This wasn't merely about the loss of funds, it was about an opportunity to reframe her understanding of money and investment. Emma paused, eyes widening at the realization. She had been so fixated on chasing after riches that she had forgotten the foundational principles of financial literacy, diversification, risk management, and the importance of having savings set aside for emergencies. The world of investing didn't have to be an uncharted wilderness. It could be navigated with knowledge and strategy. Real estate, as mentioned by the guru, had always been a steadier foundation, an investment anchored by tangible assets. Stocks, too, had their merit. A balanced portfolio that included a variety of securities could stave off the wild oscillations of the crypto market. Gradually, she began to see her financial landscape not as a void of despair, but as a blank canvas to redraw her future. The storm outside finally began to relent, its intensity waning into gentle patters against the glass, almost as if echoing her resolve. Emma closed her eyes, breathing deeply as that stark moment transformed into a catalyst for change. With a determined flick of her finger, she pulled up the financial app that had become a source of anxiety, and she began to explore budgeting tools, investment platforms, and educational resources tailored for beginners. That night, Emma vowed to shift her focus away from the dizzying highs and soul-crushing lows of cryptocurrency. Instead, she would reclaim her financial narrative. The remnants of her journey through the crypto wasteland would serve as a poignant reminder of the importance of discipline, research, and resilience. In the weeks that followed, Emma poured her energy into understanding personal finance, not merely as a means to an end, but as a philosophy that could provide a compass in the often chaotic financial landscape. She learned that successful investing required patience, clarity, and a willingness to embrace incremental growth rather than explosive bursts of wealth. Her living room transformed too, the clutter gradually replaced with notebooks filled with notes, charts, and plans for a diversified investment strategy. She sought out mentors in various financial communities, devoured finance podcasts, and participated in workshops. Each step felt both daunting and exhilarating, a subtle shift from desperation to empowerment. And when she finally lifted her head from the pages of her newfound journey, she found herself focused less on what she had lost and more on the power she now wielded in her financial decisions. She began to understand the art of saving and the science of investing, not as a means to wealth, but as a lifelong pursuit of security and independence. Emma realized that while chasing dreams of financial freedom could be intoxicating, true wealth lay not in the thrill of speculation, but in building a solid foundation, one that would securely hold against the fiercest of storms. In the glowing embers of her introspection, she found the poignant lesson to carry forward. Wealth isn't a game of chance, it is a journey navigated with knowledge, strategy, and patience, one prudently taken step at a time.